going to have a bit of a chat today. We're going to talk about meditation. Meditation is one of those things that's key to getting yourself into the right frame of mind. It's key to uplifting yourself and raising your vibrational energy, the energy that basically operates our body. Little unbeknownst to a lot of us, and it's because it's not really taught. We have our physical body, we have our emotional body that kind of controls our emotions, and that is all made possible by our brain. Our brain itself is almost its own little entity where it has its own thoughts. It tries to project and keep us tied to our physical body and not connecting to our higher selves. And the goal of meditation is to interrupt the process that we're constantly bombarded with and acknowledging, and we're dealing with everything from the brain's aspect of things, how we perceive our world and our perception of the world is based on our mental thoughts, so to speak, right? And our mental thoughts is a culmination of, who knows? I'm not a scientist. I can't really give you the explanation in full. I can only tell you through my own experiences here. And when it comes down to meditation, what you end up doing is you stop the connection of your brain and you identifying with your brain's thoughts as though they are one as the only thoughts out there, and you slowly get to your higher self, to your energy higher self. There are a lot of different theories and a lot of different people saying a lot of different things when it comes down to reincarnation, our souls, the energy world that we live in. So many different thoughts, so many different opinions on that. Here's how I've kind of tried to break it down for myself to make it very easy to understand and very easy to operate within. Think of cell phones. Every single person on this planet, if they so chose to, they could get themselves a cell phone. And that cell phone itself has a phone number. And that phone number is directly tying you to that electronic device. And that frequency or that phone number, it's just basically going to, if anyone called it, they're going to dial into contacting you and talking to you. How amazing is that, right? Like, that's something that wasn't possible 200 years ago. But through this, you can identify that there's invisible frequencies, radio frequencies, that allow you on a specific frequency number to be contacted. And it operates the same way. We operate the same way with our energy bodies within our body itself. And every one of us has an energy body, and it's completely surrounding us. And some of us have the ability to push it out further or retract it in. There's so many different capabilities that we as human beings don't really have the knowledge of, and we don't have the teachers teaching the knowledge of, and in a way that allows us to understand, And every single one of us has our own way of going about life and getting to that point of having a higher perspective, if that's what you so choose to do in your lifetime. And some of us just have the opportunity or work within the opportunities that are presented to us, and we're just reacting all the time to every situation that we find ourselves in within life itself. And what I try to do differently is I try to observe every single situation that I'm in, and if I'm able to get to the observer portion instead of the affected person, then I'm able to see how the experience or what experience that's transpiring in front of me, I can see it clearly, and I can rationalize how I'm going to react. Because in my lifetime, I've realized that the only thing I have power within is my own reaction to any given situation that I'm in. So having that knowledge of being able to figure out what the situation is and then look at it from a third person perspective, while also identifying, if I went this way and did it this way, emotionally reacting, this is probably what the recourse is going to be. And I'm doing this real time with circumstances. And I just let the energy and my gut feeling tell me which way is the right way to go about it. A lot of times I failed in life, and through my own retrospect, or just the revisiting, so to speak, of what I've done in every reaction or every situation in my life where I feel like I've gone wrong, I also analyze it to the nth degree so that I can figure out the right way to do it. So in the event that I recognize that I'm being presented with a very similar situation, which I find happens all the time. I don't know about you guys, but the same situations present themselves in different ways throughout my lifetime. And I feel like these are the tests that we're here to try and conquer out. And so by recognizing that I'm having a similar situation to where I dealt with it in the not so best way, I can then try and deal with that situation in the better way that I scoped out in my review of the best way to do that or to go about that situation. When it comes to our energy around our body, we have the ability to increase it. We have the ability to take in energy. We have the ability to give out energy. To give you an example of energy being, exchanged between two people, think about a time in your life where you were talking with somebody and the person that you were talking with was super negative, and they made you feel drained afterwards. In that conversation, there's many different ways that I could talk about this conversation, but I'll just go head on with the energy aspect from you leaving the conversation and feeling drained. When we're having a conversation where there's not energy being exchanged between two people, where you have an uplifting experience, then you have the negative experience, which is somebody who's in a negative mindset and a negative energy field. What they're doing is, when you're having a conversation, they're not listening to anything you have to say. They're just giving you a lot of negative energy, a lot of negative opinion, a lot of negative talk. And what happens is it takes you down to their level. And at that point, oftentimes, they're actually taking your energy and not giving anything back. They're just taking it all in. It's kind of like what we call as a psychic vampire. The same can be said for meditation. The only difference is you're not having a conversation with somebody else. You're having a conversation with yourself. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is not have the conversation with yourself. What you're trying to do is quiet your mind so that you can allow yourself to work with your imagination, because you have to start with your imagination first, and you have to use visualization techniques in order to eventually get to where you want to be. You have to be able to quiet your mind from convincing you to do something else, such as oftentimes for me, when I'm getting into my meditation state, I'll have problems come up that I've faced throughout the day or throughout that week that are kind of rattling around in the background of my mind. And by that, if I identify with that and I keep going with the thoughts that are coming to me, then I'm all of a sudden not meditating whatsoever. I'm stuck right knee deep in the experiencer or the person that's having, the events unfold to themselves. I'm not getting to that spiritual side of things. A lot of times, if it's not that, what it ends up being is that it ends up being like an itch or something, where I'll be getting to a point in my meditation where I'm starting to feel different feelings, and all of a sudden I'll start getting itchy. So then I have to either try and ignore the itch while the itch gets even worse and worse and worse, and then I have to go and scratch it, which breaks my concentration again. A lot of times this is where most people fail in meditation, and I don't blame them. It took me years to get to this point of being able to get around it, also to recognize it, to be able to talk about it with other people. And I don't often talk about meditation with a lot of people. I don't actually share a lot of my ghost and UFO experiences with a lot of people. And the reason why is because there's still a lot of stigma attached to these things. To even openly discuss these things, people instantly stop listening to what you have to say and label you as a crazy person, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I don't need anyone to be traveling with me in my life. I got my family, I got my daughter, I got my girlfriend, and that's all I need in life. I'm a lone wolf aside from that. Other than that, I got a couple UFO contacts that I talk to every single day, my boy Jason being one of them. So, when it comes down to this meditation stuff, y'all, one of the biggest things we need to recognize is we have to be able to get to the point where we're protecting ourselves. Protection's the main thing. Protection's the very first thing that you need to learn how to do. Most people describe the protection as doing the one thing that I'm about to describe, which is visualizing a white light surrounding you or coming from and surrounding your whole body. And then once it's surrounded your whole body, you almost want to bring it in to encircle your whole body, almost like a shield happening. Those that are really strong with meditation and are looking for the most powerful and strong effects when it comes to this, they'll also envision a golden pyramid to be flying around above them. I don't know what it is about the golden pyramid that increases the power, other than the fact that a pyramid itself is harnessing energy from the natural universe. And you can look into the pyramid powers and you can find real scientists talking about how the pyramid shape itself is drawing energy in and bringing it as a focal point. So again, when it comes to meditation and visualization, if you have the ability to actually manifest and visualize a pyramid, a golden pyramid, then you can actually increase your own strength and power in the energetic world, so to speak. So when it comes down to the protection, a lot of people struggle with the visualization. A lot of people just will deal with being in darkness the whole time. And at that point, your mind again will start putting in the seeds of doubt, which then cause you to then go down that mental thought process and get you away from connecting to your highest self or your energetic self. So they teach children who will sometimes start to learn the meditation, instead of teaching them about the practice that I just talked about, they teach them to envision and to imagine a sun, and the sunlight is shining on your face and your whole body, and it's surrounding you. And that itself would also be the best way if you struggle with what I was mentioning earlier, which is visualization and imagining the light surrounding you. If you can't do that, then you can always think of the sun and having the sun coming down and covering your whole body and stuff like that. A lot of this energy work comes down to something called chakras. I highly encourage you to research chakras. Chakras are your energy points in your body, and there are several of them that you actually have the ability to open up. And you would open them up starting with the root chakra at the very base of your buttocks area. And you would move on up to each one of those phases in order to ultimately open yourself up 100% completely. A lot of these practices and these things that are being taught and doing these actions, what you're actually doing is you're opening up different psychic abilities that you necessarily wouldn't have if you didn't actually try and manifest them. These psychic abilities range in all different kinds of things, but from my own experiences, I find myself being able to sometimes tap into conscious thought. I feel like I have the ability to read people and their thoughts sometimes when our frequencies cross. I have the ability to see sometimes. I'll see things visually in my own spectrum, like almost like a movie being played with your eyes open. It's the strangest thing. The other thing I have is something called echolocation. If I found that I've lost something and I concentrate on it hard enough and then forget about it, the next thing I know, I'm going to be told exactly where the location of it is. I have the ability to read people's energies and emotions, and I've always had that ability, but it's increased sevenfold, and I'm starting to actually see like energy, both white and black energies surrounding, manifesting themselves in different ways in different places, and it's just such a trip. Ultimately, though, I've also had bad experiences where I've had demonic attacks. I've been attacked energetically. I've also had spiritual attachments that I've had to try and cleanse myself of and remove them. Sage is one of the most powerful things that you can utilize with that, but you also have to, you have to protect yourself, and in doing so, you also have to forgive yourself in certain things that you've held yourself against to a high degree, and you feel ashamed of those things. Whatever those things are in your lifetime, you need to forgive yourself in order to move on and grow as a soul, right? But anyway, when it comes down to the meditation part of it, what you can do, and this is the easiest way, is to start off with a mantra. Some people will be like, I want to meditate, I want to meditate, I want to meditate. What I want to do is help you understand that there's a way to program your mind to getting to that point of being able to, you still have to let the thoughts pass that come to you, but ultimately this is going to help you get to that point of really getting into a meditative state if you struggle with it. This meditation technique was taught to me by a psychic lady when I was 12 years old. I was playing a video game and I met this lady, and she's telling me about all these ghostly experiences. She's talking about spiritual warfare. She's talking about good ghosts and bad ghosts and being attacked. I felt like I was like talking to someone who's a script writer for the show Supernatural. At any rate, though, I kept probing with her, and I've always had this kind of psychic experience in my life where I've had just crazy things that I can't explain happen to me. So I'm bugging her about it. I'm telling her about some of my experiences. I'm asking her to teach me, and she's reluctant to teach me. Teaching someone this kind of stuff is, again, you never know what's going to happen when it comes down to your experience with this stuff, especially when it comes to energy. And if you're not consciously aware of how your negative thoughts can actually bring apart negative entities to come and feed off of you and attack you further, then, it's just crazy when you start looking into or thinking and considering about the energetic world, ladies and gentlemen. The energetic world is all around us all the time, and we're susceptible to all attacks, both positive and negative, so to speak. But at any rate, the thing is that we got to concentrate on is your brain and reprogramming your brain. So the way I was taught by this woman after I finally broke her down to teaching me is that she taught me that I need to visualize the white light that I was talking to you about, and then to get into my meditative state, it's important that I create my mantra. So here's the mantra, ladies and gentlemen. My feet are numb, 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 my ankles are numb, my ankles are numb, my ankles are numb, my ankles are numb, my shins are numb, my shins are numb, my shins are numb, my shins are numb, my knees are numb, my knees are numb, my knees are numb, my knees are numb, my thighs are numb, my thighs are numb, my thighs are numb, my thighs are numb, my butt's numb, my butt's numb, my butt's numb, my hips numb, my hips numb, my hips numb, my stomach's numb, my stomach's numb. You keep doing that, each one of your body parts all the way up, going from the feet, starting at the feet. Keep repeating that. My feet is numb, my feet are numb, my feet are numb, my feet are numb, and keep on concentrating on that. And eventually what will happen is your feet will go numb. And then when that happens, I want you to move up to your ankles and so on and so forth. And to be successful in this, you have to get all the way to your head. And once you're all the way at your head, if you've successfully done this where your body has then become numb, then I would at that point start visualizing quite a lot of white light to surround you. Again, it just imagine it, just put in your imagination that it's happening, and it really will happen, ladies and gentlemen. It definitely will protect you. That's what I've done in my life to get to that meditation state. There's a lot of other people that will listen to like a hypnotic CD, like a hypnotist giving you a sleep meditation, right? A guided meditation. There's lots of great guided meditators out there who give you like hypnotists that guide you through this stuff amazingly well. What they're doing is they're programming your mind in their way to do the exact same thing I just taught you. So at the end of the day, I hope this helps you out. I hope that you do end up doing the meditation and getting to that point and state where of your mind where you're meditating and you're starting to get feelings. I will say that in your lifetime of meditating, as soon as you start getting excited and start thinking about the interesting things that are happening to you in your meditative state, these things will cause you to get out of your meditative state. The reason why I wanted to learn how to meditate is because my grandfather passed away at a pretty early young age for me. I was just that young teenager, and I never really got to go to the hospital and say goodbye to him. So that was one of my biggest goals. I wanted to go, I wanted to speak to him in the spirit world. I just wanted to tell him how much I loved him and admired him, and, how much I miss him, so to speak, right? My second goal was to meet my spirit guide, an animal spirit guide. And I will tell you that it took me many years to be able to reach my animal spirit guide. And although I have never reached my grandfather, I have had times in my life where some feelings of relatives who have passed on have come through as though they were coming to visit me. When it comes down to that, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have the experience. The ghosts that come and go, I'm not channeling them, so to speak. I'm not asking them to come. They just end up showing up. And when they do, I try and acknowledge them. I'll tell you about my time when I actually was able to contact my spirit guide, my animal spirit guide, through this meditation process. I found myself in this place that I went up north. My parents bought a trailer, and then we put it on a trailer park, about 2.5 hours away. And every single weekend, without fail, and for 4 weeks out of the summer, we would go up there, and that's where we'd hang out. And there was a family that owned this trailer park, and their parents before them owned this trailer park. And they just so happened to have a young boy and a older girl. The girl was around my age, but the boy was a couple years younger, around my sister's age. And we hung out and we played all the time. And one thing that me and the younger boy would do is we would go and play cribbage. It's a card game. We would go and play with his grandma, and his grandma, she loved it. That's just what we did when we'd go visit her. And so in this meditation state that I'm in, I'm just magically transported to their property, and I'm going up to her doorway to her door to knock on the door, and I'm already knowing that nobody should be answering the door. Within a moment of time, and I'm talking like a millisecond of time, I ended up being in front of the door of the house, and I'm now like 10 feet back on the ground, and I hear some shuffling behind me. So I turn around, and instantly I see that there's a giant grizzly bear, and he was growling and like snarling, and he had he's showing me his teeth, and it just tripped me out. So I just remember walking backwards, putting my arms over my face, kind of covering it, like in shock and protection and horror. And I said, "Please don't hurt me." And this bear stood up on its hind legs, and this bear started laughing at me. And all I remember is the bear saying, "You're not ready to talk with me." And he snapped his fingers. And the next thing I know, I was woken up out of my meditation state. That's the thing with spirit guides, and that's the thing with this kind of work, especially with energy work, spiritual work, and even when it comes down to ghosts or UFOs or anything like that. Magic in itself and energy work is a personal thing. It's something where typically you don't want to give people your trade secrets in the way that you go about, conducting your energy work, because that energy work and that experience and what you've created yourself, that is yours, and that's what makes it powerful for you. When you share those things, what you're doing is you're giving your tricks of the trade, you're giving your energy out, you're giving your way of doing things out, and it lessens or takes away some of your energy away from you and your ability to operate and do these things. But one thing I've always found and remained to be true here when it comes down to it is that at that point, when that bear snapped its fingers and said I wasn't ready to talk to it yet, I realized that in order to get to higher realms of consciousness, to be able to speak and converge with things that are out there on the dimensional phase and realm of things, that we need to be able to not be fearful of it. We have to have a loving conscious vibration and energy, and that is what prevents most of us from achieving any of the goals that we seek to do, because we're not willing to change ourselves and our thoughts and to recognize that there's a more pure and a more loving way to live and to conduct ourselves in life. And that's a shame, into itself, because that's what's going to stifle a lot of us from getting to a better place. For a lot of us living in society, having these viewpoints, being studied in this energy work and trying to raise our vibrations, it's one of the hardest things to do, because everyone and everything in this world is constantly trying to bring you back down into that being the one having the experience and having an emotional reaction to that, versus trying to look at it from a more loving third person degree and approach to every circumstance of your life. You can go ahead and tell a robber who's got a gun in your face, hey, I'm mad at you, and get feisty with them. Or you could do it in a different way where you're being empathetic towards their situation. And both will have a very drastic, different way of how that situation's going to go down. And that's a very far-fetched out there example to this, but for all intents and purposes here, I think it's important that we recognize that our thoughts are what actually manifest our reality. And when they're negative, we often always manifesting some kind of dramatic or drama or some kind of nasty world. And hopefully you've listened to this. Hopefully you're getting what I'm throwing down. Hopefully I've been able to explain this in a way that's understandable, because I don't often try to explain this to people. I don't often try to get this deep into consciousness and energy and all of that kind of stuff. But I think it's important. I think that right now we're on the cusp of a time in our lives where we are considering the biggest possibilities, life after death. Is there people out there in the universe that come from another planet? How crazy is that we're finding out that is true right now? And so for that to be true right now, as far as aliens from outer space, why couldn't other things be true? Why is it that we can't get beyond the thought process and the rejection of these kind of energy work, the kinds of ghost and dimensional things that we should be looking into as a society? We really should be taking that stuff seriously. We should never be mocking it. And it's very, very interesting stuff to consider and study. And it happens to people all around the world every single day. So why wouldn't we take it serious, right? Anyway, hopefully this helps. If you are doing meditation, if you are trying different things, if you're having some struggles with it, there are some other things that I haven't covered, which is like to do with breathing technique. Breathing technique is something a lot of other people like to teach as well. But when it comes to breathing technique, the proper way to do the breathing for meditation is to breathe in through your nose as much as you can possibly do. Hold it, and then exhale it, and then hold it again. The other thing that I found helped me getting to different states and having different experiences had to do with the time in which I allowed the pause from my intake and my exhale, meaning the time I paused. Sometimes I'd pause for the count of 4 seconds, and then count, and then exhale, and then 4 seconds wait, and then inhale. It's really hard to do when you're not really practicing breathing properly. But eventually when you practice it, what's going to happen is you'll get to a point where you're able to actually slow down the beat of your heart. We're able to slow down your body. I don't know. It's just crazy. It's a trip. Try it out. What you want to do is hold your holds or your pauses for as long as you possibly can. Once you start to get to 10 count and 15 count, that's when you notice that your body and your heart rate and everything starts to slow down. Anyways, if you guys do have any questions, comments, concerns about meditation and you want to field them, this is going to be the video you want to field them on, and I'll be happy if you message me to carry a conversation on about meditation and meditation techniques with you. So anyway, thanks a lot for listening. I hope you have a good day. Cheers, you guys. Take care.